All right, I'm going to call to order the City of Menasha Board of Public Works. Clerk Aliziali, can you please take roll call?
Alderman Sevenick.
Here.
Alderman Langdon.
Here.
Alderman Kruger.
Here.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Here.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Here.
Alderman Rapella.
Here.
Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Taylor.
Hey, the first thing on the agenda is the minutes to approve for May 7th, 2018. Do we have a motion? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chairperson Kruger. I will make the motion to approve the minutes from May 7th, 2018.
We have a motion and a second from Alderman Rapalla. Is there any discussion? See no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. We're moving on to discussion and action items. First item is the payment for Vinton Construction Company contract unit number 2018-1 for the Main Street reconstruction for $172,947.50, payment number 2. Is there a motion? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you. I'll make the motion for the payment to Vinton Construction Company, contract unit number 2018-01 for the Main Street reconstruction in the amount of $172,947.50, and that would be payment number 2.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Tom Grady. Is there any discussion? Alderman Sevenick.
We just gave them some money. Today.
Director Adamski.
They've got a lot of concrete down. The project's going well. June 1st is definitely still in the cards for a completion date. Despite the fact that we had 20 inches of snow in April and we've had a couple of poorly placed rain dates, we're moving right along. We're doing our best to finish by June 1st. I anticipate June 1st, maybe the first week of June, to be the completion date.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, can we take a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay, moving on to action item number 2 is for the 2017 Stormwater Utility Report. I'm going to turn it over to Stormwater Czar, Director Adamski, for a discussion on it.
And I'm going to turn it over to Director Jacobs, since he's the financial guy.
Am I vice czar now or what? I don't need another word in my title, okay? You've got 2 different reports here that one of them you've seen in previous years. It has, and I compliment our finance manager, Sossman, on providing this to Josh and I to kind of look and see what you've seen in the past. What you have here is a historical trend, which is probably very important, which you probably appreciate seeing. The very first page of that report showed that your assets, your liabilities, your net asset balance of or net position of the Stormwater Utility Fund going back from 2009 to 2017. Remember, 2017 is still unaudited, but it's pretty close to final right now. What you want to notice on the asset balance is that the asset total, when you factor in the cash balance, your accounts receivable, which is your accumulated billings that you have sent out every month to your customer base, and then also your property improvements and your machinery and equipment balance, minus the depreciation, that balance is continuing to go upward. So that's a good trend to keep seeing that going forward. You also want to notice that your liability balance continues to stabilize or going downward trend compared to a few years ago. In 2014, we were at a high point of almost $900,000. And then your net position, that shows what your net worth of the utility actually is. So that this is the first year that you've gone over a $10 million net asset position, which you take your assets minus liability balance, and that would be where the net value, net worth of the, including the infrastructure and all assets combined, is at $10.2 million compared to a year ago, which is a 9.7. I still have the pension number from Wisconsin Retirement. There's a little calculation amount that has to be factored in here, so this is not final for that. But these are at least our best estimates at this point for the report, because I promised Josh that we would have this going to this meeting here in May. And then on the second report has your trending amount for your revenues and your expenses from going back to 2009, going forward to 2017, which you can notice that on the very top row, your total operating revenues line are basically coming from your charges for services that are being billed out. You can notice there was a big jump from 2016 to 2017 from about 1.3 million up to 1.5 million. There again, if you remember going back to action that was taken by the City Council in October of 2015, you previously were at a stormwater rate, annual rate of $75. Then it moved up to $87 on November 1st of 2015. So there was a small $12 increase that which impacting then the very end of the 2015 year end. And then there was another increase of $12 from $87 to $99 effective July 1st of 2016. So therefore 2016's revenue numbers had another half a year increase in there, so that 2017 obviously was, you were at the full highest billable rate for the entire 12-month period of time. So that made sense to Josh and I when we saw these numbers, that the way they fell out to us. So that's it on the second page. And then the final page, the third page, this is kind of something that I brought with me from my former employer, something that maybe this might be helpful, because when Josh and I talked, and I think the request had come from Alderman Severnick to have seeing a report like this twice a year, a biannual report. So my thought process is maybe to have something like this that you can see budget to actual, comparing some of your different revenue sources and your different expense areas that we are actually spending on. It's a little bit more detailed, and comparing that compared to budget, so that in 6 months' time at the end of June, you'd see something like this, and then compare it to year end the previous year. So it's kind of helpful to see the 2 years, but to have it more detailed broken out. I didn't think that was necessary to go to all the extent all the way back to 2009 with it. So we kind of gave you both models, the report you've seen with a trending information for roughly about 10 years, and then seeing something more budget to actual in the current year and also comparing to previous year. But everything is going in a positive direction. I don't know if there are any other questions to ask of the czar or the vice czar.
Alderman Langdon.
I was just going to make the motion.
Okay.
I will make the motion for the 2017 Stormwater Utility Report.
We have a
To
motion.
accept the 2017 Stormwater Utility Report.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grady. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none. Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. I'm happy to see that we are, again, operating in the positive. And I'm wondering if you could tell me where we are with our rate increases that we had scheduled.
So a couple months ago, we had the Stormwater Action Plan put forth before council that was approved. I believe in that plan we had projected increases every 5 years. So starting about 5 years from now would be the time when we'd see, I believe, a 7% rate increase at that time. And that's to keep pace with our anticipated construction projects. Obviously, as we get closer to that date, we will hone in those numbers a little bit more closely and, get a rate that will truly reflect what we need to spend.
So we're stable for now?
We're stable right now. We have, the next 5 years, a lot of our projects are still DOT projects, which are, mostly or all funded by the DOT. We have one project about 5 years out that we are currently, kind of anticipating doing the 9th Street Pond at that point. And we're going to just continue going on that action plan. And as things come up, we may choose to go to a slightly different plan if, all of a sudden a development comes up where we need a stormwater pond in a specific location. We can definitely address that as it comes. But yeah, right now we are looking okay for that, next 5 or 10 years.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, can we take a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Moving on to action item number 3 is Resolution R-16-18, the intergovernmental agreement to satisfy eligibility for recycling consolidation grant for calendar year 2019, introduced by Alderman Langdon. Director Radomski, could you please fill us in?
So this is a agreement that we do every year with the Winnebago County. Winnebago County does a lot of our recycling for us, so we contract through them to do the recycling. As part of that, we need to sign this agreement that kind of states that we will do any of the informational activities that are required by them.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you. I will make the motion for Resolution R-16-18, intergovernmental agreement to satisfy eligibility for recycling consolidation grant for the calendar year 2019, introduced by Alderman Langdon.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second by Alderman Tom Grady. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Okay, moving on to action item number 4 is the Sprint Cell Tower lease agreement. Director Radomski.
So Sprint approached us a couple of months ago regarding the use of our cell tower out at the Public Works facility to mount 3 panel antennas, 9 remote radio units, 3 hybrid cables, and 6 coax cables on that tower. As part of their lease agreement that they have, there was a original exhibit, I believe it was B1, or it was amendment 1 of their contract. So it was very similar to what this was, except for they had 6 of the panel antennas instead of 3. So we ended up, they never installed those 6 antennas. So as part of this agreement, we are nullifying that original amendment and installing these 3 at the same price that we were charging them for the 6. We did consult with a consultant on the cell tower, and they were okay with the rate. It may have been a little low, but this is the same that we were charging them for double the equipment a couple of years ago, so we felt that it was a fair rate.
Thank you. Alderman Langdon.
I'd like to make the motion to recommend the Sprint Cell Tower lease agreement.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Alderman Nichols. Is there any more discussion?
Can I vote on this?
Conflict of interest?
Seeing no discussion, could we have a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
And the last item is the intersection of Racine Street and Broad Street. Director Radomski, do you have anything to add from the meeting that was held for the public earlier today?
Yes, Patrick's going to pull up the options as I discuss them so that they're available for public viewing. So once he gets those ready, I'll start discussing.
Okay.
So option number 1 is an option that provides full access for all turning movements at Broad Street, with a raised median for the left-hand turn lanes. Broad Street east of Racine Street will remain a one-way eastbound. There is a significant real estate impact to the property at 87 Racine Street. There will be no pedestrian crossing on the south leg of Broad Street intersection due to safety concerns. The traffic operation for the eastbound Broad Street is a failing level of service. There's also significant safety concern with this option. Option number 2 provides full access for all turning movements without the raised median. This was done to limit the amount of real estate acquisition on there. Broad Street east of Racine Street will again remain a one-way eastbound. The sidewalk along the east side or north of Broad Street will remain closed to the existing location, but this option has no terrace, but, it will create some issues for utilities and signing and snow storage. There will also, again, be no pedestrian crossing on the south leg. Traffic operation again fails in this option, and then there's also a significant safety concern. Option 3 includes a raised median and restricts Broad Street to right in, right out with a southbound left turn for Racine Street. Broad Street east of Racine Street remains to be a one-way eastbound. Along with option 1, this has the greatest real estate impact on the north side of the river. This one, the raised median through the intersection restricts some of the turning movements, but provides a significant overall improvement in the traffic safety. Any restricted turn movements can be accommodated via adjacent local systems, so First Street or the roundabout. And then pedestrian accommodations are provided on all 4 legs of the intersection. The raised median also provides a safer pedestrian crossing. Option 4 includes a raised median and restricts Broad Street to right in, right out, no left turns throughout the entire intersection. Broad Street east of Racine Street will have to become a 2-way street to accommodate residences on the east side of the road. Sidewalk along the east side north of Broad Street remains close to the existing location and includes about a 1.5-foot planting terrace similar to what is out there currently. The raised median through the intersection restricts the turn movements, but does overall impact, increase the level of safety and traffic flow in the intersection. The restricted turn movements can be accommodated again by the local system. Pedestrian crossings are provided on all 4 legs of the intersection. There is an 8-foot raised median in the center of the intersection to provide a much safer crossing of Broad Street with pedestrian refuge in the middle. Option 5 provides all of the turn movements at Broad Street, but no designated southbound left turn lane and no physical separation for the northbound left turn lane. Broad Street east of Racine Street does become a 2-way street. The sidewalk, again, remains close to the existing location, but there's no terrace, which does create issues for utilities and signing and snow storage. Traffic operation for both eastbound and westbound Broad Street does fail the level of service, as well as safety issues on the site. And then there, again, would be no pedestrian crossing on the south leg of the intersection due to safety concerns.
Did you get any feel for the people at the workshop on any preference or?
We had a couple of different responses. Of the ones who did have a preferred option on the survey that I had on the table, 2 had chosen number 4, 2 had chosen number 3, and 1 had chosen number 2 as preferred options.
Thank you. Alderman Nichols,
Thank you. Could I ask a few questions?
you may.
Thank you. Several of these options, option 1, option 2, and option 5, all are defined as having a failing level of service. Could you explain to us how that's determined and what that means?
So a failing level of service for traffic operations implies that a vehicle trying to make a certain turn movement, in this case it'd be left turn movement onto Racine Street, has too much delay to be considered a efficient intersection. So there's actually computer programming that you can run, the models with the exact location of the intersection, the traffic data, the configuration of the intersection to determine how exactly the efficiency of the roadway. So an A would be no delay whatsoever. C is considered the design, standard, which is, some delay but not a lot. When you get down to the fail, there can be significant delay to the individual cars making those movements.
And when you talk about a delay, that is, from a conversation I overheard tonight, defined as how long someone would need to wait at a stop sign to
to
do
s-
their intended action.
to safely make the maneuver that they need to make.
Okay. And in some of the comments we heard this evening, there were comments about other safety concerns. So some of them that are described in here are pedestrian safety. Could you talk more about that?
So pedestrian safety at that intersection is a concern right now. Obviously, crossing 4 lanes of traffic on Racine Street is difficult at best for a pedestrian. Options 3 and 4 provide pedestrian refuge areas, so islands within the roadway for a pedestrian to wait to cross to the other side. So what a pedestrian has to do right now is they have to wait for traffic to be clear, both southbound and northbound. So both left and right need to be clear for them to be able to safely make a maneuver. The options 3 and 4 with the pedestrian refuge island, they will only need to look, so if they're saying crossing to the west, so from the east to the west, they would need to look left first, cross the 1 lane of traffic to get to the pedestrian refuge island. Then they would be able to focus all of their attention to the traffic coming from the right, wait for a clearing, and then cross at that point.
Thank you for that explanation. And a similar situation that I remembered from a few years ago was Midway Road. When we were talking about pedestrians there were some refuge
Refuge islands.
put in to help pedestrian safety crossing 4 lanes of traffic in that area. And then I've also seen and heard some mention of actually increasing traffic downtown with these options. Could you address that a little bit more?
The idea is that, especially with alternative 4 or 3 and 4, where left turns are restricted off of Racine Street onto Broad Street west of Racine, we are anticipating having to put up parking signs so that it would direct traffic down Main Street to Milwaukee and then from Milwaukee into the Broad Street parking lot. So by directing traffic down Main Street, we are forcing them to look at the main storefronts of all of the Main Street businesses, whereas if they just turn into the Broad Street parking lot off Broad Street, all you're getting is the backs of the businesses without a lot of signage. So we believe that would be a benefit to the Main Street businesses by providing more exposure to them.
Okay, thank you for that. When I review these options and think about the failing level of service in 3 of the 5, and then consider the pedestrian refuge island situation, options 1, 2, and 5 do not have the pedestrian refuge in them, so it appears that 3 and 4 then become viable options to address both safety for drivers and pedestrians. I'm going to make the motion to recommend option 4 to the Common Council.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion dies. Oh, Randy, I'm sorry. I did not see you. I'm sorry.
I make a recommendation. I will second number 4.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Rapala? No. Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you. Let's look at item 4 then, and my questions are for the intersection of Broad and Racine. the older historic building that's there, that has the angled parking? Is there a desire of taking that out, or is it going to remain?
That will not be touched by this project. I believe that, if I'm remembering correctly, there is still some parking over there for, as part of the Broad Street project going in the next year. I believe that will be back in angle parking per the rest of that project. So yes, that parking I do believe does remain, but it's going to be back in parking and done as part of this year's.
Back-in parking there?
I believe, I'm not 100%. I'd have to double check the plans. I
Talk
don't have the
about
plans in front of me.
dangerous. Okay, and then the next part, the parking lot basically for the Doc Larson property, on all of the options here, there's just kind of a space there. What's planned for their green space, or is there gonna be some parking there, or what's the plan?
I believe that as of right now, it is planned for green space. However, we are only in the preliminary stages of design, so no final design has been set for that area. There is a significant slope over there, so I do believe that will be green space.
Okay, because if possible, I would think that for a lack of parking throughout the whole community, that if we were able to retain, even a handful of stalls, that should be built into the project.
We can definitely have them look at that as a possibility.
Okay. And obviously, we would have to negotiate that with them. My other point is this: we listened to the people tonight, and basically, I didn't hear one person say they were in favor of the new bridge, but that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't people out there that do. But tonight, I didn't hear one person speak up, and everybody said that they weren't in favor of the new bridge, but yet we're making an opinion about one of these options. Now, that's fine, because they're only requesting or asking the city of Menasha what we would prefer. This is a state project. This is not our project. And I certainly don't, I like option 4. I don't want to tie my hands. I would say that if we were going to go with the new bridge and everything, option 4 is the one I would like. But in my opinion, we may not get this new bridge. And I and Mark have been talking to the representatives, and both of them are not looking at the new bridge as an option either. And from what I understand, the new Secretary of DOT is not necessarily keen on the new bridge himself. So I think with that said, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here. And I don't even know if I want to vote, because if I vote, then everyone's going to think I'm in favor of the new bridge, which I am not. So I want to throw that out to the rest of the body and see what they have to say.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Thank you, Chair. Director Radomski, you stated, I think 5 people voted on some of the options here. Did anybody come up and say they didn't like any option? I mean, we had the 9 business people on Broad Street. Did they give you any thoughts or any feelings on what what's going on?
We did have a few people who did not like any option, mainly because they did not like the bridge project. We did have, I think, 3 surveys filled out that had no preference because their preference was no bridge. As far as people I talked to, there was a good amount of people who did not necessarily want the bridge. So just relaying what I heard. So
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Rapala.
Thank you, Alderman. Chairman Krieger. There we go. I was
Looking at all options, number 3 and number 4 were the ones that piqued my interest. And number 3 kept the traffic as one way, and it also took land from Jimmy John's. And number 4 allowed traffic to go both ways. One of the things that I do like about option 4 is it's safety for the people walking and with those islands. And one of the other things is, I know we talked about that land that's kind of open there where Dr. Larson's office is. We have a great little park next to the bridge tending building that we're going to lose, and it would be nice if we could just kind of move that little park right there, because then we'd still have a beautiful view of the river and do our best to make that a great advantage for the city, for people to go and look, maybe a few parking spots there as well, next to the Headwaters building. And that's it. Thank you.
Alderman Langland.
Thank you. Hey, Director Josh, I was talking to downtown owners, business owners, about this question, and I see it here on the map, and kind of a concern of ours. Now, I know this, you get to stop the red light, and then cars stop, and then cars will go, but I was wondering with the roundabout, you know, roundabouts are good, they keep traffic flowing. Did you look at taking out those parallel parking and make it angle parking? Do you think it would be harder to parallel park with the cars nonstop on the roundabout?
Are we talking on Racine Street or Main Street or?
Main Street.
Where, that's
Oh,
not part of the
sorry, yep, you're right,
intersection,
you're
sorry.
right.
No. Is there any other discussion? Alderman Taylor.
I think we heard loud and clear tonight from the public that was here, and the numbers show that there's not too many people that were interested in having these options. And I echo what Alderman Severnick said as far as, you know, this isn't our project. And he's been in talks with both the legislature and senatorial representatives. I've talked with our legislature, Amanda Stuck, about this issue, and she too, along with Chris Everson, and she too said she has reservations about this, and also with the new secretary of the DOT. And I think it's premature for us to initiate one of these options without first hearing both from Senator Roth and Amanda Stuck, and from the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. I think we need to invite him up here. We need to stand on the ground there, show him the impact that it's having on our city. And at that point, I think it's a great opportunity then we get all the information to make a decision. And also too, we have to make a financial decision on this at some time too. Where are the dollars coming from? How are we going to finance this?
That's way off topic. I want to stay on the intersection.
Okay. So was Midway Road before next to me. We're talking about that too. Way off topic. So I would like to make a motion to postpone until our meeting on July 16th till we get more information from the state.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the postponement? Alderman Rapala.
Sorry, no.
No. Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. Last week when Mr. Bertrand was here from the DOT, we, as a council, agreed to a timeline with him, and I think it's important to honor our word and move forward.
Alderman Sevenick.
Again, I'll state that if I had to choose an option, it would be option 4. You answered my questions this evening. It's just that I think it's premature when we're really not sure if we're getting a brand-new bridge or a new bridge with decking in the existing location. So that's why I'm all right with having the postponement.
Director, this is still in the preliminary stages, correct?
It is still in the preliminary stages, and the options that are presented for you today are only options if the roundabout does go. If the bridge is, all of a sudden just being rehabbed, the scope of the project changes, and we no longer need to upgrade the intersection of Broad and Racine with the DOT project. So therefore, they would not be doing any work there. I do feel that it is important for us to give a little bit of direction to the DOT in case the current alternative goes forward. They do have some pretty critical deadlines due coming up as far as real estate transactions, and they need to know the alternative for this intersection to continue with those real estate transactions.
Thank you. Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. And based on our conversation last week with Mr. Bertrand, we have every indication that, as Director Radomski said, they continue to move forward with the project. The plans continue to evolve. And just to note, the legislature isn't in session now, and the new one won't be sworn in until January, so it's really hard to make any calls on what they might be thinking. I think it's important to move forward as if things were going to happen as they've been planned, and if that doesn't work out, then so be it, but at least we haven't missed a step in the process.
Alderman Taylor.
I think Alderman Sevenick was first.
Alderman Sevenick.
I don't, I just wanted to say, again, this is a state project, so I don't know why it's so pressing on us that we have to make a decision for them. If I said option 1, they could still do 4. If I said 3, they could still do 4. It doesn't really matter. So until I really know that they're going to be doing this brand new bridge, I'm not ready to make that decision for them. That's their decision to make. It's not my decision. They want to know our opinion. They got some of the public's opinion. It's their project. Let them make their decisions themselves on this. It's not a city decision. Yeah.
Director Radomski.
And as far as I've had discussions with the DOT, they are giving us the option to provide them with a preferred alternative. If we choose not to do so, I do believe that they can go with whatever option they feel like. So it's, do we want to have a say in the process, or do we want to just have the DOT do whatever they want?
Alderman Sevenick.
Also, the issue pertaining to land acquisitions, they have not made any offers despite the fact of what's being said out there in the community. So no offers have been made. No final decisions have been made on this project. So despite what you're hearing out there, that's not the case. And it would be foolish of them to do that without actually getting a sound agreement from their director that we are going to do this or we're going to do that.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you. I was talking with both directors tonight, Josh, and I just started out first because I asked the question 2 weeks ago, does the intersection go with the roundabout? Which the answer was yes. So tonight I asked Mr. Bertrand and I forget the other person, but both of them, about the intersection and about the safety of it. And they both said that their preference would be they would go with number 4 because of the 2 islands in between.
The discussion is on the postponement right now. That's why we're supposed to be discussing the postponement.
Oh,
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Talking with Alderman Sevenick is correct about land acquisitions and things like that, and talking with Mr. Bertrand before the meeting last time, he said they weren't going to go out till late July to start talking about making some acquisitions. So we have an opportunity here to get all our facts and show the public that we're going to talk to the secretary, and that's why we're postpone this till we get all our facts here. That's all the public would require from us, and then we can clearly make a clear decision. Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion on the postponement? I see none. Let's take a roll call. Okay, Clerk Aliazi, could you please repeat the motion on the floor?
Moved by Alderman Taylor, seconded by Alderman Sevenick to postpone until the meeting of July 16th to get more information from the state.
Put the year in there?
Really? July 16th, 2018.
As soon as the clerk is ready, we'll take a roll call.
We have to switch it, we like to take down,
Oh, yeah. Need to take that down.
because I can start it.
Okay.
So that's,
Randy didn't get to vote.
Randy didn't.
I'm sorry, I thought I saw all of
No.
them. Restart,
Just gotta vote again, everyone.
Hey, everybody vote again.
I apologize.
Quick finger. Or a slow finger.
Now it looks like everybody's set.
Motion carries on roll call, 5-3.
All right, last item is item E for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Broadcasts of the City of Menasha Administration Committee, Board of Public Works, and Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Menasha residents and interested parties can obtain information about these meetings and meeting agendas from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. Expression of opinions regarding City of Menasha issues or about these broadcasts can be made by contacting the mayor's office, 920-967-3600, contacting their city alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Completing the electronic feedback form on the website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.